My name is Howard Sonenklar. I live in Lisbon. I have been invited by Miguel, the director of the dance and school and dance company, to teach in his program for a few days. I teach movement via a somatic perspective, incorporating not just physical movement, but the emotional and psychological elements that are taking place at the same time. I use lots of different sources of material to access what I'd like to provoke in the students. I want to provoke an authentic response via movement, via reaction, where there's an integration at all these levels that I just spoke about, physically, emotionally, and psychologically. The work basically is designed so that the student can get an auto or self-feedback to understand their relationship to their authenticity, their relationship to themselves, to life via themselves. It's a big question, but somatic, in the way that we use the word, is body-based. Yeah, but it's body-based with an idea that there is these levels of integration, emotionally and psychologically, and that one can't be separated from the other. They're integrated always as a total focus. Finding levels of trust within themselves. We do a lot of work in partnering in this type of work, but all partner work is kind of mirroring work, and as one opens up their own perception and possibilities to themselves, do they start to gain trust in their experience. I would say that's the most key level, is trusting their own experience and then being able to share that with their colleagues and in the world. Yeah. It's not so complicated, actually. I came originally from a background of contemporary dance and a bit of ballet, and then in terms of movement, and then contact improvisation, and then added to that via different somatic approaches, one called Body-Mind Centering, another one called Fasciatherapy, work around trauma with gabor mate, different embodied processes that help to give different approaches. Not every approach is useful for each student. Each of us is very different, so all of these different approaches give different tools to enter into their somatic process. Yesterday's work, I brought a relationship to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, awakening through the way they could perceive their body, especially paying attention to the wrists and the hands, and that relationship to the center of their body, which is an old relationship that dating back to when they were inside their mother. A lot of my training is inspired from developmental approaches that I learned from Body-Mind Centering. And then we evolved that process with visual relationships to in this case, the hands, and then to our partner's hands, and then this evolved into a whole work where the body is the sensation of the body and being is that it's more integrated with the entire space, that there isn't a separation between self and space. And then we played with the idea of falling, aspects of contact improvisation, but I basically concentrated in the simplicity of just falling and noticing how the body would care for itself once you have acquired the appropriate internal tools that were helping you through the class. Today we asked some questions to find out how they were from yesterday, and I decided that we would do an extended touch body work on the floor, working in 3 different qualities. One was a stretching quality, kind of waking up connective tissue in a very superficial sense. And the next one was pulling the meat off the bones to some extent, which is kind of waking up the blood flow of the body and bringing that into the muscle structure. And then the last one was knocking the bones of the body, which was kind of waking up bringing blood into the bone marrow of the body. And these 3 different qualities evoke 3 different emotional, psychological, and physical responses, both by the doer and the receiver. And then once we worked through all of that with each other, we played a little game of one person giving resistance to the other through holding, in this case, one arm, and the other person figuring out how to move with that resistance, which I think was a good balance in relationship to what we did the first hour and a half in body work. My interest, the reality is that we teach our interest. That's basically the truth. If I'm not teaching what I'm interested in, I'll be a very boring teacher. Just the truth. But, and it interests me at a personal level that I could perhaps offer each person an insight into themselves, but also at a social level, as I am concerned with the social movements of the world. I do trust that this world brings more of an empathetic response in people, and I think that this empathy at a world social level is very important as a society. So I'm not being altruistic here, I just feel that that is a response, a natural response. When we are finding our own intimacy with ourselves, which is the only real intimacy that exists, we can share that intimacy with others because we feel confident in that place inside of ourselves. To not force, yet stay diligent and with a rigor to move towards the direction that you would like to open in your life. I'm a big believer of not forcing and giving space, but at the same time finding rigor. You understand rigor? Yeah. I don't know in English what rigor, but yeah, a container. It's these 2 sides which are extremely important. I would, in a certain philosophical sense, I often tell people to somehow, how do they become both the participant and the witness at the same time? And usually these 2 things cannot happen at the same time. In rare moments they are available to us. But this is the goal, to kind of be able to have these 2 containers happening. I'm not a big future-oriented person. I tend to not improvise I kind of improvise my life. Yeah. So I on one side, I try to stay within what I just told you, a certain rigor, a certain belief in love in the universal sense, and try to live this in the class without needing to say the word, but the word is certainly pronounceable, that's for. But yeah, to live with my consciousness and openness and love. That's an aspiration. I don't have a career aspiration like I want to become president. I always talk about time and space. That's what I would say. I learned this from my teacher of fasciatherapy. His name is Danny Bois. And I really loved his very simple definition of time and space, because we invent everything. Nothing is out there. We invent time, we invent space, we invent forward, backwards, future, past, we invent everything. And by our experience. And his vision of time, I really loved, which very simple, was time is simply the velocity, how fast or slow you're moving or going or doing, and the rhythm that it's taking place in. Very simple. And space was simply the direction that you're moving, and the amplitude, how big or how small it's being lived inside of you and outside of you. And these two elements, contrasting all the time, are always happening. They're happening in every action moment of our life. And if we don't get too big in future thought, we'll recognize that's happening in the microcosm, and that's a good thing to remember.